Joining us now on set is the award-winning actor Ron Perlman, star of Hellboy movies and the hugely popular FX series Sons of Anarchy. His latest film is The Escape of Prisoner 614. It's available now on iTunes. He has hammered President Trump on Twitter, but recently said he's sick and tired of being a voice in the wilderness. We'll find out what he means by that, and it's a pleasure to have him with us. Thank you, Mr. Perlman.
Thank you for being so up to date on my. I think you're actually a couple of steps ahead of me.
I know your next film that you don't know.
Yeah, because that last tweet you quoted, I just saved it in drafts. I haven't.
You
No,
haven't
I'm kidding.
said
I'm
it.
kidding.
Okay.
I did put it out.
We'll talk about The Escape of Prisoner 614 in a while. You've had a lot to say about Mr. Trump and his election. When did this feeling of yours start toward him?
Well, he's been, having grown up in New York City, he's been part of the zeitgeist my whole life. And he's for us New Yorkers, he's just been a joke, I mean, he's always been a guy who had all sizzle and no steak. He would do anything for attention. It was his crassness and his lack of nuance and creativity that made him a joke. I mean, there's a lot of us who do things for attention, but he's so obvious and one-dimensional about it that he just became the New York City joke, and his whole life was basically a tabloid article, but in real time.
I know him for 35 years, and the people who knew him well just sort of enjoyed it. He was what he was.
Mm-hmm.
Everything was and everything was, but he wasn't a threat to anything.
Right.
Wasn't a menace,
right.
Maybe to people who do work with him or something.
There's a difference, though. Now that he's got some power, some real power, he's in a position where he affects every single human on the planet now. And there are positions that he's taken that are really disquieting, really, really horrific, and very based in third world kind of points of view. So. He's gone from being a joke to a real threat, and when it's has such an all-encompassing effect on how we define ourselves, and the things that we're supposed to aspire to, teach our children to heroically look up to and stuff. You're in the most powerful position in the world. It's consuming.
But his position, as I know him, I used to interview him all the time. His positions have changed. He used to be very pro-Hillary Clinton as a senator. He was against the Iraq War. He favored single-payer health care system. What changed?
I think he fundamentally has always been a racist. I think that his racism is not up for debate. I think that he is using his power to finally unmask all the things that he needed to do in order to be successful in business, which was his only goal in life, was to just make money at the expense of anybody that got in his way. There's no morality to his voracious need to create wealth. But the racism thing probably was something that got handed down to him by Fred. Because they were slumlords, they always had, And this dismantling of the Obama legacy is so deliberate and so unmasked and so mean-spirited. No matter how good an idea it was, no matter how bad an idea it was, whether it was a Republican idea, a Democratic idea, a centrist idea, he's out to make sure that we forgot the first black president. That we forget the first black, that he never existed. And it's very much in keeping with this thing that he did where he was like, with the birth certificate, and he's from Kenya, and he's a plant, and that was like, but at that point it looked like a stunt. He's in power now.
Yeah.
And it's no longer a stunt. It's like these are the positions that America is taking.
Earlier this month, you tweeted that you were taking a break, you were sick and tired of being a voice in the wilderness, and you felt betrayed and alone. There's many voices like yours. Where are you alone?
I feel as though, as an ordinary citizen, I started to feel as though I was saying the same thing over and over again because, every hour is a new outrage. And so how do you, eventually when you start to like pin each one off, pick each one off.
Shooting gallery.
You start to sound like a drone. And I began to hate the sound of my own voice, and I began to become very, very overly emotional about my reaction to all of this.
Many people are in that position, though.
Many people are in that position. I'm not saying I'm pulling out. I'm not saying I care any less. I'm just saying that I'm going to try to keep my powder a little bit dry for when a voice like mine, can actually have a real effect. I feel as though I spoke and I spoke and I spoke, and still we got a Congress that's turning their back on shirking their responsibilities and doing things that are unconscionable. The government is under assault. Nobody is lifting a finger to do anything about it. What's a guy like me to do? I mean, I can't fix this stuff. I can point it out, but that's as far as it can go. And on Twitter, Larry, I'm sorry to interrupt, but all the people that agree with me are going to agree with me no matter what, and all the people who disagree with me are going to disagree with me. And you're not really making that much of it. It's a very kind of self-indulgent kind of thing at a certain point.
George Will wrote an article the other day saying, George Will, the conservative Republican writer, that Pence is worse. That Trump is what Trump is, but Pence is against all of his own principles.
Well, Pence is, I like to keep reminding myself that we'd never would know the names Flynn, Manafort, Papadopoulos, Pence, if it weren't for Donald Trump. I mean, he's the circus leader. He's the P.T. Barnum of this whole thing. Michael Cohen. All these people are 6 degrees of a DJT, and he's foisted these sick, twisted person. I mean, look at the cabinet. Look at this. The guy who's supposed to be protecting the earth right now, who's like, what's his name?
Pruitt.
Yeah.
He's anti-environment.
He's anti-environment. He's just anointed this ship of fools to the point where they're in our face every day, and we're having to watch them crash and burn in real time, and it's tiring. That's why I needed a break.
You're a supporter of IAVA, Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America. You're going to co-host its Fleet Week Parade of Ships launch in New York later this month. How did you get involved with that group?
I started seeing this fellow named Paul Rieckhoff on television whenever there was any kind of a discussion about veterans issues, and he was mesmerizing to me. He served. He did like eight tours. He's a real American hero, but he's also brilliant and incredibly articulate. And there's something about veterans issues that resonate with me in a very deep place. For one reason or another, I didn't serve the country. I don't feel great about that, so I'm trying to make up for it in my later years by just shining a light on how necessary it is how much we owe those who, without asking for any thanks, are the ones who deserve our thanks the most. And Paul and I have become friends. He's the head of IAVA, and I've just come to love the organization. I come to love the guys who it supports, and I'm very upset about the fact that there's 23 suicides a day, and that somebody has to.
That's true, and that's so sad. And why do we tend to forget about people who fought in war? I
mean, for the same reasons, all the other stuff we've been talking about. the kind of human psyche is sometimes exemplary and sometimes not. And the fact that you need to be reminded that, and we wrap ourselves in the veterans things when it's convenient.
Yeah.
And we have Veterans Day and we make beautiful speeches, but Veterans Day should be 365, 24/7.
Trump honors our veterans all the time, except McCain.
Right. Well, he only honors the ones that didn't get captured.
Except he praised the 3 guys who just came back from North Korea who did get captured.
Yeah, but that was for ratings. He even said that.
Yeah, he even said highest ratings ever.
At 3 o'clock in the morning.
Okay, where do you think it's all going to go? What happens in this? Do you have any thoughts? Where does this go?
I mean, I feel as though there's enough that is going to be revealed that is going to. We've already tested the founders and what they envisioned, and we're failing desperately. You know, the whole just if you look at the emoluments clause, he's decimated that, and nobody's doing anything about it. This is clearly a for-profit presidency.
So you don't know where it's going, right?
Well, I know that there's corruption. I know that what he's been doing is indictable, but the amount of cover that's being run for him by guys like Dershowitz and Giuliani saying, you know, you cannot indict a sitting president. Why not? I mean, if he broke the law, if he laundered money, if he gave the Russians sway over the greatest democracy in the history of mankind and allowed a puppet to be installed, why not indict him? No, will we? I don't know.
Let's talk about your film. The Escape of Prisoner 614. We've shown some clips. You play a kind of bad sheriff, huh?
Now look, I want you to rely on your training. I want you to be vigilant. This some killed a deputy in cold blood, and don't think he won't try it again. Don't forget that.
Yes, sir. We won't.
Yeah, I play a sheriff who is a kind of a product of his time. The movie takes place in the 60s. A black prisoner ends up not showing up for roll call one morning, and he's in prison wrongly to begin with. He's been, you know, profiled and you know, what's that wonderful word? He's just been
Profiled.
Yeah, he's been profiled, and, you know, he's been set up. He's all the things you can do to just say, yeah, this guy's obviously guilty while being black.
Do you like playing bad people?
I don't mind playing bad people if there's something about their psychology that I find fascinating. And so this sheriff is not all bad. He's got things about him that are excessive, and those kinds of studies of behavior that are excessive behavior due to this happening in his formative year. That I find as an actor to be worthy of it's like a Rubik's Cube trying to solve it.
Nobody thinks they're evil.
Right, exactly.
Nobody combs their hair in the morning and says, I'm a bad guy.
Somebody asked me how would I feel about playing Trump, and I said I would never want to play Trump. There's no duality there. There's no irony there. There's no cleverness there. He's just what he is. He's one-dimensional, and there's no redeeming quality. The sheriff that I play, even though he's got some racist overtones, is a great sheriff. He's a great law enforcement guy, and he's really, really got skills when it comes. So there's a complexity. There's nuance. There's
Can't
layers.
wait to see it. Well, you're a great actor. I can't wait to see it.
Thank you, Larry.
What's next, Ron, on the list of Perlman attributes?
A few years ago, I started my own little movie company called Wing and a Prayer Pictures, and we just won a big audience award at Tribeca with a little movie called To Dust with Matthew Broderick.
To Dust?
It's called To Dust. It's about a Hasidic man whose wife dies at a young age of cancer, and he's obsessed with her going back to dust, which is when she stops being tormented. And so it's Geza Rohrig, the guy from Son of Saul, and Matthew Broderick. And we just won all kinds of awards at Tribeca. I have another movie coming out that I actually acted in and produced called Asher. So I'm kind of combining these jobs where I actually can leave the lights on and pay for it, with lots of labors of love that I just do because I love the cinema.
Honor having you with us.
Great to be here, man.